So this week we're doing Monster Hunter World. Again. For those of you who don't know, I took a run at Monster Hunter World about a week ago, and my opinion on the game was not exactly a good one. In fact, my opinion on Monster Hunter World at the time could be summed up in two very simple words. It's shit! I feel the need to point out that Monster Hunter World had a lot of hype behind it, especially for me. The last time I played a Monster Hunter game was back in the early 2000s with Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. A game I sincerely remember enjoying quite a lot. Exactly why I enjoyed it I don't know, as apparently every Monster Hunter game has been grinding up the bumhole, but hey, I was young and dumb, let's let it slide. At any rate, in my opinion, Monster Hunter World had some big shoes to fill. Now, I can't say it manages particularly well. After all, again, my initial opinion of the game can be referred to simply as it's shit. But now we've established to my satisfaction what my initial opinion was, perhaps we should spend this time understanding why that was my opinion, and why the last week has changed it to a very slight degree. Now I can put the words "it's shit" with a proviso in front of it. That proviso being, it's shit unless you're playing with friends. So if you're one of the lonely saddos of the world who hates human contact and never wants to interact with other people, I can tell you out of the gate that Monster Hunter World is certainly not the game for you. And on that note, theoretical lonely saddo, may I also recommend Dark Souls? Because, theoretical viewer, Dark Souls is long, engaging, engrossing, and most importantly of all, can be played entirely in single player without losing any of the experience. And should you be one of those people who hates interacting with others, that's probably a much better place to spend your money. Now that we've established that, let's move on to the other aspects of Monster Hunter World. To start with, let's talk about the story. Now, if you're familiar with Capcom, and I assume most of you are, they are a rather fucking gigantic publishing corporation, then I imagine you're also rather aware of the fact that Capcom can't write a story to save their own fucking lives. Their most recent game, Resident Evil 7, or Resident Evil Homecoming, depending on which title you prefer more, had a good story, and this is for one very important reason. Capcom got someone else to write it. But back with Monster Hunter World, I'm afraid we've got Capcom's usual fare, by which I mean writing that could probably be outdone by a mentally retarded puppy on fucking general anesthetic. But that being said, no one's ever said writing was one of Capcom's strong points. In fact, I'm not really sure what one would call Capcom's strong points, but I'm sure I could find some, given a month and a team of highly paid researchers. But anyway, if we keep up with my gripes against Capcom as a company, we'll be here all day, and I'm sure we all have better things to do. God knows I do. So, Monster Hunter World story. We start in a ship. So far, so good. And almost immediately, we're talked to by people we don't know, telling us shit we apparently should already know. Okay, not exactly the most organic way to bring across our story, but hey, whatever, let's roll with the punches here. And soon after this begins, we're asked to create our character, which immediately gained Monster Hunter World some extra points, because any game that lets me create my own character immediately makes me more immersed, and thus more engaged in its story and everything else happening in the world around me. Immediately after finishing creating my character, I'm also asked to create my cat. Yes, you heard me correctly, a cat. No, I'm not entirely sure what a cat has to do with anything. From what I remember from Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, cats have something to do with this world. I couldn't tell you what it was to save my own goddamn life, but something, I'm sure of that. Which makes it even more awkward to admit that even after 26 hours spent with this game, I'm still not entirely fucking clear what this cat's job is or why he's with me at all given times. So yeah, a major supporting character that I have to have with me at all times, and I'm still fucking clueless as to what he does or why he's there. Okay, that's not entirely true. I know he throws me health items occasionally and can do a couple of other things, but as for a narrative reason as to why this particular cat has chosen me as its master until apparently the end of fucking time, I have no clue. I don't think they ever actually explain that, which is something of a large problem to me, because it means that a character that I have to have with me at all times, I don't know why they're there or what they're contributing to the story, because frankly, if all they're going to do is throw me health items and such, they could just give me more slots for extra health items. I do not need a thinking, feeling companion with me if all they're going to do is throw me health items and contribute nothing to the story, which is my real sticking point with 99% of all of Monster Hunter's NPCs. Most of them seem to contribute absolutely nothing to the actual story overall, and it's made doubly hard to become invested in any NPC in Monster Hunter World, mostly due to Capcom's naming conventions. You see, in Monster Hunter World, outside of players, all of the NPCs are referred to by job titles, not by name. And I want you to think about that for just a second. Imagine if you addressed every single person in your life by their job title, not their name. Do you reckon you'd feel particularly close to those people? Because I fucking doubt you would. I can't get close to anyone or feel invested in their part of the story because all I know them as is their job title. 3 examples off the top of my head are the Commander, the Old Hunter, and the Field Team Leader. Thus far, these 3 characters have been of major importance to the central plot of Monster Hunter World. But frankly, I cannot get invested in this story because of how they're named. I can't see them as people and become invested in their problems because they're called Field Team Leader, Commander, Old Hunter. There's nothing personal there for me to get attached to, and thus, they come across more as flat pieces of cardboard than characters. Soulless machines to drive the plot rather than an organic way of telling a story and getting me invested and wanting to know more. But that's okay, like I said, Capcom can't write stories for shit, so that's not why we came here, now is it? No, we came here to fight gigantic monsters with gigantic swords because that's fucking awesome. And let me tell you right out of the gate, that is still fucking awesome. There is nothing wrong with fighting giant monsters in this game. Most of the time. Unfortunately for Monster Hunter World, while I have very much learned how to enjoy fighting gigantic monsters in this game, it is not without its own set of problems. The main one being that Monster Hunter World is grind central. Unlike most RPGs, Monster Hunter forgoes a traditional leveling system. Instead, your attack power and defense are decided entirely by your gear. And the only way for you to get more gear is to go out and kill more monsters, thus creating the endless cycle of I need better gear, gear, thus I have to go out and kill more monsters. I need to kill more monsters, thus I need to get better gear. To me, while I did enjoy hunting large monsters with friends, and not at all alone, because Monster Hunter World is fucking terrible to play alone, but more on that later, the fact of the matter is that grinding for new gear for the most part feels like all the worst parts of an MMO. Feels like having to go out in World of Warcraft and farm 20 bear asses for no apparent reason for some farmer who's not going to do fuck all with them. Granted, the gear you get in Monster Hunter has more practical use, after all you can turn it into new weapons, new items, and so on, but I do feel like it's a little bit too grind-filled for it to really ever capture me. Which is a shame, because I've really learned to enjoy Monster Hunter quite a bit, even if my initial impressions of Monster Hunter World made me want to pick up the Capcom employee who created it, and then remove their fucking nutsack with a pipe wrench. However, even taking that into account, I really don't think the combat in Monster Hunter can carry it by itself, which is something of a problem considering that combat is what you're going to be doing most in Monster Hunter. I've just found most of the weapons to be too clunky and slow to give me that thrill of brutal combat that I was craving so much. Which is unfortunate because, again, combat is something you're going to be doing a lot of in Monster Hunter World. Its entire gameplay is based around it. However, even taking that into account, Monster Hunter's saving grace of its online mode. Now, originally when me and a mate of mine first started trying to play Monster Hunter World, we really couldn't use the online features. We played for 8 hours straight, and we managed to get in 3 games together. One of them was by an SOS Flare, and SOS Flare being part of the handy little online systems that Monster Hunter World has included. This system is extremely useful for players who are venturing out alone and find themselves up against odds they can't possibly hope to overcome. Should a player find themselves in this situation, they can set up an SOS Flare, which will allow other players to enter their game and help them out. It's a nice way of making co-op quick and easy without having to party up and spend all the rigmarole of trying to find a full group. It's also good for people who find themselves in a bit of a tight spot after making a mistake. However, while I do like the SOS Flare system, it's no excuse for me and my buddy having to spend 8.5 hours to party up together only to find out it can't be done. It was infuriating. Seriously, we found people on the same quest we wanted to go on who were in a group and we get told we can't group up like that. It was incredibly frustrating. In fact, it was actually that made me put down the game at the 8-hour mark and go, fuck it, it's a shit game. I did not want to go back and play Monster Hunter World again. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on the way you want to look at it, I was talked into trying again by my buddy, who had gone out and bought an online version of Monster Hunter World instead of a physical copy like I had. And thanks to having a digital copy instead of a physical one, he couldn't simply return it and get his money back, which meant I was forced to not do what I wanted to do to my copy of the game, namely microwaving the disc, pounding it into a fine paste, sealing it in a 44-gallon drum and dumping it in the middle of the fucking ocean. But this ended up being for the best, because it seemed that they had solved whatever issue it was that stopped us grouping together online. And I found that once you can actually work with other people online, especially the people that you actually already know you like, Monster Hunter World turns into a lot of fun, even if it is still grindtacular as all hell. So in my opinion, if you're the kind of person who can grab a group of friends together and really get into the meat of Monster Hunter World, you'll have a good time. However, if you're the kind of person that prefers to play with yourself, then I've got the better game for you. And no, it's not Spank the Monkey, get your heads out of the gutter, you fucking children. The game in question is Dragon Ball FighterZ, and it is amazing. If you've been in the market for a good 2D fighter for a while, this is your port of call. Now, if you don't like fighters, this is not going to change your opinion on them, but it does have tight controls, an excellent soundtrack, and awesome design. The combat is simple to learn, but difficult to master. There's a range of different combos, and the super moves look amazing. If you want more of a one-player experience, this is the game for you. And also, for those of you who are worried about retreading the classic Dragon Ball story and not being particularly invested, you have nothing to worry about, because Dragon Ball FighterZ has a story created specifically for it, the story of Android 21. If you'd like to know more, I would recommend playing the game. The campaign will take you between 8 and 12 hours to finish. It's broken into 3 separate parts. Suffice to say, it's a story that's never been covered before in either the anime or the manga, so you don't have to worry about retreading old steps. With that said, there's still enough nostalgia value here to get any DBZ fans salivating with the amount of stuff they've managed to cram into this. Seriously, you can make your own dream team of 3 guys consisting of people like Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, Android 18, Cell, Frieza, you name it, they're probably there. The roster is a bit on the small side, carrying only 24 characters, but in exchange for only having those 24 characters, they've been able to keep the combat nice and tight, and in my opinion, that's the most important part of a fighting game. So in conclusion, if you're looking for a good multiplayer online time, now that they've fixed the issues with it, Monster Hunter World is definitely the way to go. However, if you're more of a single player mood, or you just wanted a good fighting game, then go out and grab Dragon Ball FighterZ, you definitely won't regret the money you spend. All in all, however, both games have their ups and downs, and if you want my personal opinion, I believe Dragon Ball FighterZ is your better buy. And not just because throwing a Kamehameha wave has been my lifelong dream since the age of 6. Hey guys, I'm Lenny from Bull in a China Shop. Thanks a lot for sticking around for our second try at the Monster Hunter review. If you guys would like to see more of our reviews, you'll find our Jotun review and Overcooked review on screen at the moment. If you're something of a puzzle fan, I can highly recommend the Overcooked review. However, if you're looking for something a little bit more along the lines of fantasy, then Jotun will be right up your alley. And while you're checking out those reviews, you could also consider following us on Twitter. I'll admit Twitter's not really something I ever got into in my personal life, but hey, I'm willing to keep an open mind and maybe we'll even have a bit of fun with it. Unfortunately, thanks to YouTube making a few changes in their policy, I can't actually link Twitter in the video itself, so you'll need to find the link down in the description. And finally, if you're liking what you see, maybe you could also consider subscribing. We're a relatively new channel, and every bit of exposure we get does help. Once again, I've been Lenny from Bull in a China Shop. Thanks a lot for joining us, and I'll see you next time.